Imagine being handed like a priceless, totally life-changing gift, absolutely free.
No strings attached.
Exactly. But the moment you accept it, you realize you now have to work harder than you ever have in your life. Welcome to today's deep dive. Your sources today are the biblical text of 1 Corinthians 15, paired with a set of your personal QT or quiet time reflection notes. And our mission is to, well, unpack that exact paradox.
It really is a profound shift in logic, you know? We are basically looking at why receiving something completely unearned suddenly demands so much effort.
Okay, let's unpack this. The text kicks off with this really bold claim from the Apostle Paul. He says, flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God.
Which is a heavy way to start.
Totally. And my initial thought was to compare this to a tech upgrade. Like, you simply cannot run the new imperishable software on old flesh and blood hardware. We all have to be changed in the twinkling of an eye at the last trumpet.
I get that analogy, but, well, a software update really only patches old code, right? The text is actually arguing that the physical hardware itself has to be completely scrapped and replaced.
Oh, so a total teardown.
Exactly. Think of it more like replacing the foundation of a house. I mean, you can't put a 100-story eternal skyscraper on a foundation of decaying wood.
Right, the system would just collapse under its own weight.
Yep. The physical architecture has to fundamentally change to support the weight of eternity. And that complete structural rebuild, the new imperishable hardware, is what actually swallows up death and victory.
Ah, quoting the source here, "O death, where is your sting?"
Yeah, the passage literally mocks death. It's cementing Paul's core theological achievement, which is that salvation is given by grace through faith.
Not by human merit.
Right, not at all. It is not a reward for good behavior. You know, you can't earn it by being strong, wealthy, or incredibly moral. It's a pure handout.
Okay, so, see, here is where my brain hits a roadblock, because this sparks a genuine causal shift. If this resurrection hope is entirely a free gift of grace, like you said, a pure handout,
Yeah.
why does Paul end verse 58 by urging believers to always abound in the work of the Lord? I mean, if the hope is already perfectly secured, isn't gratitude alone enough?
Does seem contradictory.
Right. It feels almost like a bait and switch. Like, hey, here is your totally free gift. Now get to work. Are we expected to work as payment for the gift?
Well, what's fascinating here is that that's the exact trap your QT notes point out. On the surface, it definitely looks like a transaction.
It really does.
But the work of the Lord Paul describes is not, labor for survival. And it's definitely not a forced, guilt-driven obligation to pay off some cosmic debt.
Yeah, looking at your notes here, it seems like the work is actually just the joyful response to the gift. Paul adds this really crucial phrase, knowing that in the Lord, your labor is not in vain.
Exactly. Because the ultimate enemy, death, is defeated, the things you do now actually matter. Working hard is actually the expression of profound gratitude from someone who already holds that hope of resurrection.
Oh, wow. So you aren't working to get the victory, you are working from the victory.
That's the key. The fear that your efforts are just pointless is completely stripped away.
Working from the victory, I mean, that completely flips the script on how we view the daily grind.
It changes everything.
So think about your own responsibilities, tomorrow morning. When you look at your tasks or your projects or how you help others, are you serving out of joy and gratitude? Or are you operating out of pressure, fear, and endless comparison?
Because when the text insists your labor is never in vain, the work itself transforms, right? It goes from being a burden into a celebration. The text states that the sting of death is sin.
So if the absolute worst case scenario, death itself, has completely lost its sting and you know your labor cannot be in vain, how does that change things?
It's a huge question.
It is. If you truly have nothing to lose, how would living that way redefine the safe risks you choose to take in your everyday life? Definitely something to think about.